Hello and welcome to this video on the DJI 04 units and their durability, specifically about their coaxial cables. I did see a comment on the flick video that I did a few weeks ago about the durability of the camera and the coaxial cable in case there was a crash. In the flick's case, the camera's mounted right on the nose, so just don't crash and you'll be fine. At least be careful with that. There's really no good way to mount a camera in the front of a plane. It's going to be the first thing that hits the ground, so you just kind of have to get over that. But I did want to touch on what I'm doing to the 04 units, both of them, to help improve their coaxial cable durability, because for me, I have unfortunately had to send back a few DJI 04 Pro units. Luckily, haven't had issues on the 04 Lite units, but I have done a little bit of preventative work to my 04 Lite units to sort of try to prevent some future damage from them. So I will go over that here really quick. First, you're going to want some E6000. If you fly fixed wing FPV, you really should have a tube of E6000 on hand. I have at least a few always ready to go. It's good for building planes, it's good for repairing planes, and just generally a good glue to have on hand. So if you don't already have some, make sure to pick some up, because this fix involves using a decent amount of it. So let's start with the 04 Lite unit. This is a brand new 04 Lite unit. Just a quick PSA. These are the water indicating stickers for water damage for your warranty. Don't let your dog sniff that sticker. It will turn red and you will lose your warranty. Just something to keep in mind. I have actually flew one in the rain and it still does turn red, but this one is from the dog nose. So don't let your dog sniff them. There's one on each side. So let's take a look at this connector really quick. This is where the coaxial meets the board. DJI has done a good job of putting a little bit of glue on there to prevent it from popping off on both cases here. The board side and the camera side both have a little bit of glue holding the cable in place. But what I am doing now with my 04 Lite units, and have really since the beginning on my 04 Lite units, is I am gooping basically this entire section here along the board there, right there between the board and the connector, gooping that, coming to the other side, gooping this side, and then as well as a little strain relief here. These right angles seem to be the biggest problem on these 04 Lite units, or the 04 in general. And so I'm doing my very best to try to support that angle and give it some strain relief. So a good goop there to try and attach this section of the cable to the board. That way, if you're tugging, it's not tugging directly on the cable here. It's tugging further out here. So that's what I'm doing board side on the 04 Lite unit. And then on the camera is a little bit more delicate on the 04 Lite unit, or the 04 unit, sorry. There's the daughter board, and then there's the connector. I'm just gooping this whole section in E6000, and then the same on the other side here, to try and make sure that this board isn't going to go anywhere, and just to solidify this whole thing. Do be careful, don't get it on your lens. E6000 is very stringy, so if you're gluing on this side and you turn around or something, it's very easy to get glue on this lens, so just be a little careful with that. Maybe put a little dab of tape over the lens before you start working. So that is it for the 04 Lite unit. Here's the 04 Pro unit, and like I said earlier, I have had to send a few Pro units back. I don't know if the Pro unit is more susceptible to damage, or if it's just because I put it on larger craft typically. But a little bit disappointed in terms of durability from on the 04 units, but of course they have the best image, and there's gives and takes with everything. So the 04 unit, 04 Pro unit, has very similar right angle coaxial connector, which I think is the main cause of problem here. And especially on the 04 Pro, it seems to want to tug the coaxial and the connector right off. And really what I'm trying to do to avoid that is, again, trying to support that right angle there. Just a bunch of E6000 holding in that right angle to the aluminum heatsink. So if there's any tugs here, going away, it has a little bit of strain relief towards not pulling on the connector or the cable directly. And I think that's going to save me quite a few units. I don't know what the plan was on having right angles off of some of these connectors. Maybe it's to have better straight lines for mounting the camera, but you know, I'm not a huge fan of it, and I think it's definitely caused more issues than it's solving any problems. One additional note on the O4 Pro, it is very nice that they have solder points here. You know, the O3 unit did not have solder points, but this one does. Super cool that they have it. But the problem is the coaxial cable is just on the other side of these solder points. So if you're not careful, you could just barely nick that coaxial cable and it's pretty much done for. I accidentally barely touched one and it was toast. So be very, very careful if you're going to solder here because the connector is on the other side. But if you really want to solder, I would highly recommend just taking this board off, removing the coaxial cable, soldering your wires on, and then replacing the coaxial cable after you're done soldering, just to keep it from being right where you're soldering. But for me, what I'm doing is I'm just using the pigtail and splicing it in where if I need a wire extension. So yeah, definitely don't recommend soldering. It's nice that they're there just in case, but do take cautions if you do decide to solder. So anyway, just a quick video on how I am trying to improve the durability of my O4 units and trying to get the most out of my coaxial cables because they are not super cheap, especially if you need longer ones. They're like $10 to $20 depending on what cable you get. So it can add up pretty quick if you're not taking precautions with these coaxial cables. There are actually some manufacturers that are making straight edges, but they're pretty much out of stock everywhere, and I haven't gotten to test them out. So maybe if I get some of those in, I can do a quick video on what I think of those. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.